amidst radioactive environment, in the eternal dark of the underground, at unattainable altitudes. Kazakhstan's vast lands attract researchers and explorers from all over the world, and our filming crew are no exception. We are in the midst of perhaps the most unusual archaeological expedition in this region.
Yes,
it's already done. This was the second photo of the other.
Excellent. Pull it. Take a picture of the unit now.
In tandem, the scientists from Kazakhstan and the United States are investigating the necropolis of the Nestorian community. It is possible that what we have here is a Christian cemetery of the Karakhanids era. Our guess is that the corresponding ancient settlement existed in the 11th or 12th century. With the Mongols' arrival, it still lived until the 14th century. The ancient travelers of the Silk Road could not have missed such a city as Ili Balik. It was large, noticeable and significant. However, the goal of this excavation is its cemetery. Why? Because this is exactly the case when death-related matters can shed more light on the city's life.
We don't understand maybe who those people are who've been buried there, but we do know what their culture thought of them as and identified them as. And from the marks from the of the now 11 stones we now have, the crosses, the inscriptions tell us these people were buried and marked as Christian. And this is pre-Mongol in the date, as far as we can tell. And this is totally new data for archaeology to contribute. Historically, we knew about that, but this gives us the first physical compound evidence of that difference. And that's what's really interesting.
Who lived here and what did they believe in? Did foreign missionaries or indigenous people inhabit this part of the city? What if the whole city was populated with adherents of Nestorianism? Today, the archaeologists split into groups to work in several sectors simultaneously. In total, 3 sites with potential finds are included in the excavation area. In each of them, the scientists have found tombstones with Syrian or Turkic inscriptions and Christian symbols. However, the discovered tombstones do not guarantee that the actual burials were located exactly where the stones were found, because they could have been moved. Now the researchers are removing the topsoil layer, hoping to come across some valuable artifacts. Not a single day of the expedition had passed without discovering new kairaks. We found large stones as well as some smaller ones. In this case, their size does not matter. The most valuable thing is that each of them has an epitaph. That is, an inscription with the name of the buried person, this or that settlement inhabitant. 2 out of all the gravestones discovered here are of special value for archaeologists. An expert is now working on deciphering the inscriptions on them. The outcomes of his examination will directly influence the overall success of the mission. As of now, we have presumably identified only a couple of names. We assume it to be the names of 2 persons who had been buried under the same tombstone. So far, the kairaks remain just silent stones. Only one fact can be stated with confidence. The gravestones have Syrian inscriptions and the so-called Greek crosses with equal arms, which hint to their Nestorian origin, that they were made by the adherents of the so-called Eastern or Syrian Church. What was so special about it, and how did it come to our hands?
They were the first nation to adopt Christianity around the year 250, and this is even before the Roman Empire, before Constantine the Great made Christianity legal in the West. And so the Nestorian Church has a very early history of an organization, and they sent missionaries eastward into Persia and beyond Persia, and we see now into Kazakhstan and into China.
Естественно, возникает вопрос, почему вот такое
The active and extensive procession of Nestorian practices across the world of course gives rise to many questions. In reality, it was not only Nestorianism. In principle, Christianity in general, as well as Islam and Buddhism, followed the same path. In different times, all world religions and their adherents were spreading around the world. They were all distributing within the limits of the ecumeny or the inhabited and known world at that time and beyond. How did the locals receive the first missionaries and their disciples? What was their social status and what role did they play? The questions have ripened as during the excavation of the necropolis it became evident that in this settlement death neighbored life. They buried the deceased in the same place or really close to where the living continued their day-to-day life, whereas the city itself was located on the other side of the Ili River.
Is it normal to make graves near the place where live people?
Yes, yes you do, because this is a community. This isn't just a cemetery stuck outside. We're outside the city. You're going to have your cemetery outside the city, but you're also going to have it near a community. We wouldn't find the material we're finding here if it was just an isolated cemetery like you see on the steppe today in Kazakhstan. Here you're probably looking at a small community that was established outside the city, engaging with the city, communicating with the city.
Could it be possible that the community under investigation was really a community of hermits, as historically Nestorians were considered renegades?
In the 19th century, historians would say that the Nestorians were heretics, that they didn't believe the same as the Orthodox or the Roman Catholic Church. And but now the more we study the documents and their history, we believe that no, they weren't heretics. They just had their own organization, and they didn't belong to the Eastern Orthodox, the Greek Church, and they didn't belong to the Latin Catholic Church. They had their own Eastern Church. It was Orthodox in its beliefs, but separate in its organization.
Each hour of the excavation under the scorching sun generates new riddles and hypotheses. Each meter down brings the archaeologists closer to the truth. The situation on all three excavation sites is roughly the same, except for this one where the scientists decided to go even deeper, having discovered a tombstone underground. The spectrum of the finds is diverse, from animal bones to ceramics fragments. The dating for some of them coincides with the era which archaeologists want to investigate.
Notice there's a white glaze, and on top of it they incise it with these dark colors and these little areas here that are in green. These are like little leaves, and so this was a cup. This is the bottom of the cup, and when you would drink it, you would see the design underneath the liquid as you're drinking the cup. This is very nice because it's 14th century, it's medieval, it's the time period that we expect.
After a hot day, the archaeologists sit down for a planning meeting to discuss a number of issues. At their disposal, there are only separate ceramic fragments discovered on the territory of the cemetery and the adjacent ancient settlement. We have this complex of ceramic finds with obvious Christian symbolism. It was discovered within the limits of the alleged ancient settlement and not on the territory of the second Rabads section, where we are now, which is located behind the river from the settlement. It means that, most likely, both the population of the central part of the city and the population of the Rabad practiced Christianity.
If the city is concentrated around a citadel and we have people living on the outside, we have communities that are connected, much like suburbs, or in some of the Western countries. There's a major city, but people live around the city and outside the city for different purposes. Some of them are occupation, some of them are their jobs, some are related to their religious practice.
I can state with full confidence that the community that lived here were not hermits. They did not live isolated from the main city or were in some way cut away from it. The inhabitants of the settlement were the same as the residents of the city. It might be they would come here to the Rabad section to conduct some kind of activities. Late at night, the expedition leading scientists received a letter from Dr. Dickens, the expert who was translating the inscriptions on the two Kazakhs. He managed to decipher them. In both cases, we're dealing with the burials of priests. In the first case, the name of the buried person is Varsava, a biblical name, and in the second case it is also Varsava. But in the first case, the inscription specifies Varsava, the son of Cush, and in the second case, Varsava Cush. Varsava the powerful, this is the translation from Turkic. Cush means powerful or strong. In the morning, the archaeologists continue their efforts, already knowing whose graves they are exploring. This is the last day of the expedition, and the scientists have only a couple of hours to reach their goal.
What is the plan for today?
The plan for today is to open up a rather large window, a 10 by 10 meter window, in two places where stones were found in the survey. This was the location of the stone that describes the priest. So this could be a very significant place because the stone will not have moved that far. So hopefully within this 10 by 10 meter area, we'll find the grave shaft.
When you can say, is it grave or not?
We're looking right now for a change in the soil that shows a deposition, so that someone in the past has cut through the layer and added different kind of soil into this deposit.
What emotions inside of you when you are working? It's a fear, it's waiting of opening.
It's always anticipation. That's kind of what the fun is, you know, you don't know what's there. Let's see if we can find something. If you find something, it's great. If you don't, you keep going. So many people think archaeology is hunting for treasure, you know, gold or artifacts. But it's far more complex than that. It is basically the biggest treasure of archaeologists is knowledge and education and learning about what happened in the past.
It looks like the archaeologists have found something interesting at one of the sites.
As the front loader came through to clear the topsoil, it hit this ceramic pot, and we started to clear and excavate around it. And as we did, we noticed a change and difference in the context that it's laying in. We have much more of a harder, compact type mud brick melt, possibly even mud brick surface structure, depending on further excavation. That kind of surrounds here, where we're actually standing, and then around the pot and in here we have more of a soft sand that has some coloration that appears to be ashy.
The final use in historic period is as a trash pit. So it's got a lot of animal bone, it's got a pot in it, which was broken in antiquity. My question is, what is it before it became a trash pit? Was it designed for something else, like a grave?
The working day is coming to its end, but the scientists found no signs of burials at any of the sites. In the evening, the lead team decides to finish the mission. Does it mean that the whole week of excavation has passed in vain? The archaeologists don't think so. Indeed, they didn't manage to find the locations of the graves of Varsava Cush and his son, but now they know their names. It is surely a discovery.
They may take a name of a saint or of a biblical figure. No, his name it's who he is. We see this in the Roman Empire, which is a world that we are very familiar with, in where a Roman will take a Roman official title, a Latin title, but he'll maintain his own personal Greek name. This shows that his identity is multifaceted. Identity, we show many faces. And one of those ways we show them in religion is you take the title of your new office, or you take the title of power, but you maintain your personal identity name. And that's what we think we have here in this stone. That's a fascinating discovery, because it's the first time we can show that here's a member of the Church of the East who is a Kazakh.
The science team has spent the first field season here, and they are confident that this is not the end of the Ili Balik burial excavation. They will return here to continue their quest for discoveries and search for the truth. Meanwhile, the inaccessibility of the Nestorian necropolis only triggers more curiosity and rivets attention to it of the international scientific community. No doubt we can draw certain analogies. We have written sources. Other scientists around the world have conducted similar studies. We will compare their conclusions with ours. I believe in the end we will be able to draw a very truthful and precise picture of the history of this vast region, of this country which we call Kazakhstan, which is our homeland.